Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night from wherever you are watching here on Apex Racing TV for the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Season 1 here. I'm Adam Thompson, along with Ron Mons here today, as well as our production manager, Josh, is in the house as well. Today, we're at the Hungaroring circuit in Hungary. Of course, many of you remember the Formula 1 races here as well. And today we take Super Formula Light cars around this beautiful, beautiful circuit here this afternoon. Of course, last week we saw pretty much a meltdown of ice cold racing, and the championship has also gotten closer. We'll talk about that later. But first, Ron, let's talk about the Hungaroring.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Adam. Hungaroring, incredibly historic in the world of racing, and although it has had some alterations over the years ever since it opened and hosted the first Hungarian Grand Prix all the way back in the 80s, I believe, this track has always put on some pretty good shows, as always a really fun drive as well. So it all starts as usual on that start-finish straightaway. Pretty long. It's the longest straightaway on this entire lap, leading into a fantastic overtaking opportunity in turn number 1. As long as you don't turn your front tires into rectangles, I'm looking at you, Max Verstappen, you will be able to get through this corner and try and overtake without ending in some sort of major disaster. Turn 1 going to be a good overtaking opportunity. Then you really just need to survive. Going through turn number 2, a really tough corner on this track. The track is falling away from you. You're going downhill. It's a little bit off camber as well. Really tough for the drivers to try and keep it on the road heading through that corner there. Then turn number 3, a kink, pretty much flat out, even in these Super Formula Lights race cars. Then into turn number 4, which in an F1 car, that's flat out. In these Super Formula Lights, I think it's going to be a much different story. Then we head through turn number 5, another challenging corner as well, trying to make sure you don't use the track limits too much, otherwise you may incur some sort of penalty. I think we'll definitely talk about that in the qualifying session we're about to get into momentarily, and the race as well. The turn 6 and 7 chicane, seen many an incident through there over the years. Tough and really tight racing always happens at that track, especially in the lap 1 of these 2 races that we're going to have tonight. I'm sure it is going to be some fun. Then these drivers finally get up to speed and start settling into a groove with the S's of turn 8, 9, 10, and 11. 8 and 9, pretty much entirely different than 10 and 11, which are a bit more spread out. Pretty much imagine turn number 10 and 11 as if you had turn number 8 and 9 as it approached the event horizon of a black hole. It's just very much spread out, and that section is much quicker. Then you have a small little flat out blast heading into turn number 12, another good overtaking opportunity if you try and sneak a wheel down the inside. Then it's heading heading through the final 2 corners on this lap. The long left-hander hairpin of turn 13, heading your way then into the long right-hander hairpin of turn number 14. This track is fun. It's hosted the Hungarian Grand Prix many times, and the first Hungarian Grand Prix I watched all the way back in 2015 was an absolute classic, and I'm sure here with the latest round of the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series, I think we're going to have a hoot as well today, Adam.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Ron. Of course, an interesting fact about this racetrack: this was the first racetrack since the fall of the USSR that Formula One actually raced at, and it only took 8 months to build. In 1985, it first opened its doors in 1986. So a very historic track at this point, and we get to see some awesome racing. Let's take a look at the driver standings at this time. Of course, we saw kind of a meltdown last week, and we'll talk about that here as we see Tobias Olsen in the pro class leading the charge with 449 points. But due to his race last week, the gap is now closed to just 14 points. George Snasnoff with a great run last week in getting the win. He is just right there with 435 points. Leonard Schneibel also had a kind of a rough week last week. He only picked up 91 points, but he's sitting with 399 still in this championship fight. Nicholas Rasmussen currently in that 4th spot with Kevin Zemstra in 5th, and Lee Aberdeen in the top 6. Heading over to the AMs now. And Ron, the AMs, I think, have had kind of an interesting season so far.
Oh, it has been a very interesting season thus far for these drivers. Been up and down in terms of the drivers we expect to contend for the championship. Currently, it's Yannick Pletcher, the driver from Switzerland, at the top of the board in the 215 car. Currently 323 points on the board. Only 11 back is Jeff Lutz in second. Fabio Grassetto, who took some pretty dominant wins earlier on in this season. He's currently third for Alcantech NHR Racing, currently third in the AM standings. That's going to be Dalil Akbalit in fourth, and then Jedvalis in P number 5, the driver that we always try and get the name pronunciation as best as we possibly can. You can see a whole lot of drivers running in that AM category so far this season. Currently 16 drivers with points on the board in that class. I think we'll also take a look at the team standings, because this is another thing that was shaken up dramatically after the meltdown that Ice Cold Racing had at Sebring only 1 week ago. They entered that round with a 150-point gap in the team championship. That has now diminished. They're still in the lead and ahead by 62 points. However, that gap between Ice Cold Racing and Dudarev Motorsports has diminished over this past week. Alcantech NHR is still looking to pick up the pieces as well, with HWT Motorsports in 4th and Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing rounding at the top 5 in the team's championship. But Ice Cold Racing, even for Ice Cold Racing 2, who's 7th in the team standings, it was just an absolute meltdown for a lot of drivers up and down the grid. And Adam, I'm going to ask you this here real quick, and it's a little bit of a loaded question. Do you think they're going to they have to be trying to recover after the disastrous round that we saw last time at Sebring? Do you think they'll be able to do it, though?
Well, it just depends, right? As we're looking at qualifying here, we see Tobias Olsen currently quickest out there, 133.5. So obviously, he's not too shaken up about what happened last week. I think last week was just kind of just a calamity of events that just came together. And for Ice Cold Racing, this is the week that they really need to put on the charge, as we are halfway through the season at this point. So only a few more races left to go. So any points that you drop now is going to be completely detrimental to not only the Drivers' Championship, but to the Teams Championship for Ice Cold Racing. You also need to keep an eye on George Snasnoff. He had such a great performance last week, even with Ice Cold Racing maybe not having those issues last week. I think he was a big contender, taking the win on pace. He just had some magnificent pace and just kept it up front. I'm glad to see Nicholas Rasmussen. He's also going to be a player come the second half of the season. So for Ice Cold Racing, this is the week you got to go 1, 2, 3. That's what you have to do in both the heats and the final. Of course, this we have changed the format from the couple weeks ago. If you were here last week, you know what that format is, and that is a two races, and then of course that will set the order with a top 6 invert. So if you're thinking about that top 6 invert, if you're maybe Tobias Olsen, maybe running 6 in that first race, it may not be a bad thing, and you'll be able to start on the pole. Of course, we got to talk about, and of course, Lee Aberdeen is a part of that team as well. He's had some very rough couple of weeks here as well. Let's go on board here with Nicholas Ravnussen, currently 6th fastest on the board, and he crosses the line and he goes 4th quickest with a 1:33.6 over Janik Pletcher and George Snasnoff. Again, still on the pole position, it's Tobias Olsen, but remaining on board here with Nicholas Ravnussen as they went through turn 1. Here comes one of the faster parts, again, as Ron mentioned, of the circuit. You got it slower way down through that corner, but you pick back up the throttle through this section of the race course, and this is where it gets sketchy. You got to get lap cars out of the way. And if you've ever raced on this circuit in a open wheel car, GT3 car, that's one of the sketchiest corners right there, because you can easily lose it and into the wall you go.
And it's even tough in this qualifying session, because imagine if you're in one of these Super Formula Lights race cars. You know, open wheel cars, they don't really like wheel-to-wheel contact too much. So if you round that corner at pretty much entirely at terminal velocity, and you see a slow car pretty much parked on the outside, you're going to be terrified. So this is a very challenging course for all of these drivers, and as we're riding on board with Rasmussen, heading his way, about to enter his way into the final sector, about to head into the 90-degree right-hander of turn number 12, it's been a pretty interesting qualifying session, it must be said. We'll round out this lap with Nicholas Rasmussen. You can see a little bit of traffic a little bit farther up the road. Will he improve for the driver that played the team role? It must be said he allowed his teammate to take the win, that being Leonard Schneibel. So he was playing the team role last time. Actually, it wasn't the win, it was P2, my apologies. He played the team role to allow his teammate to grab P2, and in this qualifying session, he himself has put it on P2. Currently only behind Tobias Olsen, and there's a little bit of drama in that, if I'm being brutally honest. Ice Cold Racing as a whole, they haven't really rebounded as we were expecting. This is Thomas Hedlund, one of the Ice Cold Racing drivers, specifically driving for Ice Cold Racing number 2. Well, just to call it the 4th Ice Cold Racing car, he's currently 13th in this qualifying session, which is not ideal. Thankfully, he won't have to worry about bumps and everything like that, like we had to worry about with the old format, and that's still not a good qualifying performance so far from Hedlund. We'll see if he can improve in the dying stages of this qualifying session. Kevin Zwemstrom, meanwhile, he's 11th, not very far up in front of Hedlund. You've also got Lee Aberdeen, the Australian, who's been very entertaining to watch this season. However, hasn't gone a win yet. I think he just needs to calm down as we approach the second half of this season. He has been fiery, however, he's put himself in a lot of troubling situations, which has really screwed him over. But as it stands, currently 5th in this qualifying session. And Tobias Olsen up at the front. Nothing too much to be shocked about there. He is a very fast driver, arguably the fastest so far this season. However, we got some word from the race admins here from the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series, and apparently Yuri Grigorenko, who we don't see on the qualifying board right now, and Tobias Olsen both have qualifying bans. So Tobias also was not meant to set a qualifying time, but he did anyways. There could be some further penalties levied to Tobias Olsen. So depending on how things shake out with this, we may have to put a big asterisk next to his qualifying performance and his races as well.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows if there will be a live race control or a live admin to potentially put a penalty on Tobias Olsen in this one. Again, so thank you very much for that, Ron, on that reporting. So, but I want to mention one person that's in this top 3 group, Mark Swan. He's in the AM class. He has had 2 really good weeks in qualifying in the amateur side. He's been qualifying on the pole. He's been one of the faster AM drivers of the season, just doesn't have the results to show for it.
Oh, absolutely, Adam. He has been a very consistent driver, and the main thing, especially considering how dramatic and chaotic these Apex Racing Academy series can be, he just kept it clean, and that's really important in this series. And I think heading into this 25-minute sprint race, which we will be heading into in just a few moments' time, I think just keeping your nose clean is going to be very important. So starting P3, that is a very impressive result from Swan, but Adam, I'll let you take the starting grid.
Let's take a look at the first lineup of the day. Tobias Olsen on the pole for the first race at the 25-minute race. Alongside him, Nicholas Ravnussen. Road number 2, the ADX Racing Esports driver Mark Swan, and Fabio Grassetto with the Alcantech NHR by Neymar. Row 3, Lee Aberdeen with Ice Cold Racing and Janik Pletcher. Row 4, George Snasnoff, last week's winner with an Alex Pilbeam. Row 5, Leonard Schnebel and Nojus Gedveles with ADX Racing Esports. And row number 6, Kevin Zemstra and Andre Duna. Row number, 7? There we go, Thomas Hedlund and Salias Craig Vorlik. And row 8, Dalil Akbalut and Pierre Francois Palus. Row number 9, Mohammed Bolo. Excuse me. You want to help me out with that one, Ron? Mohammed.
I'll just call Mohammed.
We're just going to go with Mohammed on that one. And Leonard Bognar and Jane Walsh and Yuri Grigorenko make up the last final full row. And then Jeff Lutz at the end of the field, our 21st entry here this afternoon. So that's the lineup here, Ron. And I guess what should we be expecting here as we get ready? Looks like the grid is already lined up, so the lights are actually going to go on. So let's hold on to that thought in just a moment. Nope, there's still a spot back open. So I'll
make it brief. Chaos.
Go ahead.
I'll make it brief, chaos. Adam. It's just going to be chaos. But we'll see.
All right.
It's going to be entertaining, though.
There we go. 5 lights go out, and away we go here. Tobias Olsen tries to cut off Nicholas Rasmussen on the inside as they are falling down into turn 1, but Nicholas Rasmussen not going anywhere. Who is that shooting out to the outside? They're going to go 3 wide into turn number 1, but Tobias Olsen, he's going to take the immediate race lead. Alongside him, Mark Swan, he is right there. We got chaos in the back with an ice cold racing car as they're falling down the order here. That's Kevin Zemstra, who has lost a couple positions side by side through turn number 2 and 3, and still Tobias Olsen leading from Mark Swan and Nicholas Rasmussen.
That is an absolutely horrible start for Ice Cold Racing. It's still Tobias Olsen holding us to that lead, but fantastic start, it must be said, from Swan, as some side-by-side action all throughout this field. These drivers want to lead, and they want to try and gain as many positions as contact coming out of turn number 5.
And who is that spun around? That is Fabio Grosseto, who is now fallen down to 19th place. I couldn't quite tell who he made contact with, but he went for a ride there. Now Schneibel trying to gain position. Snasnoff now in 9th place, trying to make up as much ground as he can. We're hearing that it was maybe Kevin Zemstra with the contact on to Grosseto. We got battles all over the place. Again, top 6 will invert. Mark Swan, the only amateur in that top 6 group, running second. You also have Leonard Schneibel. He is in the car in the middle there, trying to chase down Lee Aberdeen, who's putting on a good defense. Goes wide in the penultimate corner, but is able to gather it up as they go into the final corner. Down the front straight they go. Now Schneibel right on the back bumper of Lee Aberdeen, side by side as they go down the front straight. He's got a good run as they fall down into turn number 1, and this is a long straightaway. Mark Swain up in the front of this pack as well. He's battling hard, and then here is Schneibel still. He's finally getting by Lee Aberdeen through turn 1, and he now takes the 4th spot and is able to chase down his teammate.
I gotta say, despite the contact, huge contact involving Alex Pilbeam and Lee Aberdeen, just the point that I mentioned earlier on in this broadcast, only a few moments ago, some of the fastest drivers in this series. Lee Aberdeen is one of them, but he puts himself in these situations that just screws him over week after week. We're gonna take a look at a replay to see all that drama that went down as they careened their way into turn number 3. Alex Pilbeam, that is a wounded HWT Motorsports race car. He is going to be on the back foot massively, and now they're right side by side with each other, heading into 6 and 7. The chicane right there towards the middle sector of this lap. They're going to swap spots, but they careened their way down the running order as a result of that drama. We're gonna have to find a replay of that, Adam, because that was just hard racing, especially on lap 2. Those drivers racing as hard as they were in a 25-minute long race. With this new format, the 25 minutes is longer than the longest race that we had with the heat race format. So these drivers racing way too hard. I'm not really sure what to make of that, Adam. It kind of looked like both Alex Pilbeam turning into the corner as if Lee Aberdeen really wasn't there, just kind of an afterthought, and also Lee Aberdeen maybe overshooting it a teeny tiny bit. Couldn't see too much from that overboard perspective, but either way, it screwed the both of them as both Pilbeam and Aberdeen are now coming down the pits. Heartbreak for the both of them.
Let's take a look at the replay with Fabio Grosseto from earlier. Grosseto on the inside just gets ran into by Kevin Zemstra, and around he went. He did have the inside line, and nowhere he could have really gone to prevent that from happening. But now we see multiple drivers coming out of the pits. Alex Pilbeam coming out of the pits, same with Lee Aberdeen. We also need to mention that Grosseto is just now pulling into the pit lane, and Thomas Hedlund is also in the pits. He is 3 laps down to the field. Celias Craig Verlick currently 2 laps down to the field as well. So, that's some major damage for Grosseto on the front of that car. I think that's probably his race over with. His nose gone. So we'll have to see what happened to him. All right.
The beauty of an iRacing fast repair. I gotta tell you what, man, the Red Bull, the iRacing mechanics have been drinking Red Bull constantly ever since the season started. That was just immediate. I mean, Grosseto wiped the mat going sideways into his pit box, but hey, they still service his car and he gets back out onto the racetrack. I mean, he's on the back foot, though. Don't get me wrong. He's currently running 19th and would be at risk of going a lap down between now and the end of this race. But considering the drama that we've had so far this season and so far this race as well, it would not shock me in the slightest when we see some more damage and may see Grosseto end up in the top 15. That would be a very good result and also a fantastic recovery drive. Keep in mind for the viewers watching this stream, when it comes to this format, the top 6 are inverted, but besides that, there's no qualifying session for the second race as Gedville is going to go for a move down the inside. It looked like it was going to go for it, but I think that was Craig Verlogic on the inside heading into turn number 1, really blocked off any sort of opportunity. He had to get a move done on Yannick Pletcher. This is for P2 and P3 in the M category and P7 and P8 overall, and you can see Gedville is nearly going into the curb on the inside of turn number 2. All these drivers going sideways. That was a beautiful drift from Yannick Pletcher. They're still going side by side, heading through the fastest corner of the lap. One of these drivers has to back out, and it's going to be Pletcher playing the smart call for the driver that entered this race with the lead. Oh my God, that's contact with himself and Grigorenko. Grigorenko putting on a very good recovery drive, if you're not saying a qualifying time. He goes spinning like a top, and I think Pletcher should buy a lottery ticket because he was very lucky to get away with that contact.
And he opened up the door for Grigorenko to get in there, and Grigorenko was not going to leave that position. He wanted to make that move happen, and I think they just both kind of just met right in the middle there. We'll get a replay later, but up in the front now, we have a new race
lost
leader,
the lead.
Mark Swan. Mark Swan has taken the lead of the race. Tobias Olsen in second now. This would be probably the worst on-track pace without a wreck by Tobias Olsen of the season. Nicholas Rabusin, though, he is watching behind this battle here, and potentially maybe picking up some pieces as they go down into turn 1. Tobias Olsen, he shoots it out around the outside, doesn't make the move stick, but he's still right there on the rear wing of Mark Swan as they go through turn 1. Now down the hill into turn number 2. And this is when it gets crazy. Down the inside goes Tobias Olsen side by side. And can he hold on to the position? No, he does not. He has to back out of it now through the fastest corner of the track. Tobias Olsen, he's going to look down the inside. Yes, he does.
Beautiful.
He gets the job done, and he retakes the lead of the race.
That was a beautiful move to retake the lead of the race from Tobias Olsen. Don't usually see a driver go for a move down the inside heading into turn number 4. He just licked the stamp and sent it. That was a beautifully executed maneuver from Tobias Olsen to retake the lead of this race. He lost a whole lot of time because he went from about a 1.2 second gap in front of Mark Swan to losing the lead. I'm curious, did he pick up some sort of major slowdown penalty heading through the middle sector of that lap? He actually went off track. We may be able to find the replay here. Thank you very much, Josh. Following Tobias Olsen, hanging his way through turn number 4, about to head through turn number 5 right now. I'm curious what may have happened here. He goes off the track there. That had to have been the slowdown. Yeah, you can see him abusing the track limits there a teeny tiny bit. You're just gonna see him drop off a cliff pace-wise. So I'm curious. Man, this is okay. That was running very wide coming out of turn number 10. Not sure where he picked up the slowdown, but I mean, it had to have happened at some point. And there is the pass that forced Tobias Olsen back into P2. However, credit where credit's due to the Swede. He managed to take the lead back again in pretty dramatic fashion.
And now we're looking at a couple of different battles here side by side. George Snasnoff on the inside, and Kevin Zemstra going down the inside in turn 3, holding on to the position as now they go down the hill. Again, they have to figure this out before they get to this next corner here. Looks like Snaznoff, he's looking around the outside, almost makes contact as they go through that fast corner. And again, Kevin Zemstra holding steady into that 5th spot. As of right now, George Snaznoff is looking at being the pole position in our A feature later on. Now Grigorenko, after his spin, is into the 12th spot. He's made up 8 spots since the start of this one. Jay Walsh right behind him, 6 spots. And for Grigorenko, he has to really be kicking himself after that one. Do we have that replay from earlier of that great camera angle we got on the rear car of the person in front of him? Can't remember quite who that was. I
believe it was Gedfelis.
Gedfelis, yes. Let's take a look one more time. Again, through that fast left-hander and into a very slow corner and boink, and spins her around almost. He is so lucky he did not take anybody else with him on that one. So good heads up awareness there and keeping his car just planted and not moving at all. So Grigorenko up 8 spots in this one. And of course, throughout the field, we're starting to somewhat slowly see the gap starting to form here. Battle for the lead, only just a couple of tenths. You can see lap times there, 1:33.991 for Tobias Olsen. He is flying through here. He's almost 2 tenths quicker than Mark Swan, but keep an eye on Nicholas Rasmussen back there. He's on a 1:34.2. I guarantee you he's got a little bit more pace than that with the performances we have seen from him, particularly in the last few weeks. And Grigorenko making up another spot. He is into the 11th spot. And was that Pletcher that also got by Bognar, or was that Bognar getting by Akbulut? I just looked over and saw a switch in so yeah, it looks like Bognar did make the pass. Let's take a look at Grigorenko's pass here to make up another spot and go up 9 spots into 11th. He's got a good slipstream as they go through turn number 4 and 5, 6. And wow, what a move around the outside. What a move.
He had a whole lot of speed heading his way into turn number 4. He cleared him before they even thought about turning into turn 4. So very nicely played from Grigorenko. And here is a replay of another overtake, another hard charger, that being Leonard Bognar. You can see a spinner a little bit farther up the road, and that was Akbulut actually going for a spin heading into turn number 5, a very tricky corner on this racetrack. I think we'll take a look at Dalil Akbulut, still up 5 spots in that HWT Motorsports car, and I believe he's still the highest running HWT Motorsports entry, and that was just a clip of the grass heading into turn number 5, and that's what sent him around. It's a very easy mistake to make, especially in these race cars. It's part of the reason why Junior Formula Series exists. It's not only to try and get acclimatized to the speed, but also get acclimatized to the size as well. These cars a little bit wide, so it's a little bit tricky at times to try and sense where the grass is, especially when you're just in the zone and trying to look at the apex and the apex alone. Now, unfortunately that's what happened, but as I just said, Dalil Akbulut is still the highest running of the HWT Motorsports drivers. The AM driver currently running 10th overall, 4th in the AM standings, as it's actually, my apologies, 5th in the AM category as it stands at the moment. His teammate, the pro Alex Pilbeam, he is still not very far off of Lee Aberdeen, the 2 drivers that made contact heading into turn number 2 very early on into this race. We're just past a halfway mark now, Adam, so do you think this race is really settling into a groove as Akbulut going very slowly? I think he may have picked up a slowdown possibly, but either way, do you think this race is settling into a groove now that the drivers all up and down the field have seen the chaos going on? They're just going to try and settle back and try and get to the end of this race? Or do you think they're just going to go balls to the wall? What do you think?
Well, I'm looking here. The top 4 really isn't separated still by all that much. It's only a 1.7 second gap between the top 3. So the gaps are slowly starting to form, but we still got our kind of key individual battles here. Again, Mark Swan, the only amateur in the top 6 right now, and he's only 1 second back from Tobias Olsen, but he's got some company about 7 tenths behind him of Nicholas Rasmussen. And that's somebody you don't want behind you because he can make moves that you may not have seen coming. And he'll make them. He'll make those moves happen and make them stick. But the gap kind of just remaining the same here as we take an aerial view of the beautiful Hungaroring located in Budapest, Hungary. Again, one of the more historic tracks, built in 1985 and opened in 1986. One of the very first tracks since the fall of the Berlin Wall that F1 has visited in history. So very interesting historical fact there if you're a history nut like myself. And taking a look here at Tobias Olsen here, and this is the guy we got to keep all the eyes on. This man has been on a charge. He had a rough week last week, and he's trying to right the wrongs of what had happened at Sebring in week 4. Nicholas Rasmussen, Leonard Schneibel trying to get back into a little bit of a rhythm. He's been somebody I would say we think he's going to do incredibly well, and then it's just been a kind of just really above average results, Ron.
Yeah, it's been up and down, it must be said, from a lot of these drivers. I don't think any of them have had a flawless season up to this point. Even Tobias Olsen, who, as we said earlier, he's been dominant so far this season, had a pretty expansive gap in those pro standings just 1 week ago, entering the 2 races at Sebring, still leading the championship, but he's had up and down season. Sebring was probably what he hopes will be one of the lowest of lows from this season. A little bit of a shorter season to deal with as well. Usually these seasons here with the Apex Racing Academy series are, you know, about 10 races, sometimes even 12. Here's only 8, so Tobias Olsen does not want to limit the mistakes, and he wants to have more moments like this. We're taking a look at that beautiful overtake that he put on Mark Swan heading into turn number 4 to retake the lead of the sprint race, and ever since then he started to pull away. Right now the gap between himself and Swan stays at about 1.5 seconds. The gap between Swan and Rasmussen about 0.8, and I was going to mention not very long ago that Leonard Schneibel, Rasmussen's teammate might I add, at Elkentech NHR, he was running effectively in no man's land not very long ago, but now he's closed up that gap between himself and his teammate as he briefly blinks out of existence, heading his way around the final corner. He's running in 4th, doesn't really have any pressure right behind as Kevin Zwemscher in P5 is about 4 seconds back, a little, actually 3, yeah, we'll call it 3 seconds back. But it's still a pretty significant margin, it must be said, from Leonard Schneibel, so he may try and force the issue a teeny tiny bit. Olsen and Swan, they don't have their teammates around them at all. Olsen, his closest teammate would be Zwemscher down in P5, and considering the tight battle that we have between Ice Cold Racing and Alcantech, we could see the teammates of Rasmussen and Schneibel possibly try and gang up here to try and take the fight to Ice Cold Racing and Tobias Olsen.
Again, top 6 inverted after this one as we are approaching the 17-minute mark of the 25, 11 laps in the books here. And this is becoming sort of a strung out race now as I look at my track map here. Again, 2nd and 3rd, still battling for position here. That's Nicholas Rasmussen in the red and white 177 car, and Mark Swan in that purple or dark purple and white car, and you can just see the gaps there. It is very close, and you got Leonard Schneibel, the teammate of Rasmussen, right behind him, and this is when it can get kind of a little chaotic, I would say. Now you're feeling the pressure a little bit in this race. Again, top 6 inverted, so if you're in that 6th spot, I'm guessing if you're George Snasnoff, you are perfectly fine right now. You have a 2-second gap behind you, a 1-second gap in front of you. You're not wanting to push at this point. You just want to bring the car home, and that way for George Snasnoff, he will start and pull. Nicholas Rasmussen with the invert, he'll start 4th right now, but he is looking at starting 5th with Mark Swan right in front of him as we go down into turn 3, down the hill. Again, fastest corner of the track, this fast left-hander approaching here. Nicholas Rasmussen, he's got a good slipstream, but he's not going to get to the back bumper in time, but he is sticking right there with Mark Swan. Tobias Olsen has pretty much gone off into the distance with a 2.3 second gap between him and Mark Swan. Other battles looking through here, not too many going on. 5th and 6th are battling. Kevin Zemstra and George Snasnwap. They're starting to get a little bit closer, but I don't think it's going to be enough by the time we get to the end of this one. But Zemstra gaining 6 spots after a disastrous result from him last week. He retired in the race at Sebring, so he is looking for redemption. But we should talk about the hard charger of this one, Yuri Grigorenko. Up 10 spots since the start of this one. So he's gone from 20th to 10th, and he's still not done as he's chasing down Bognar as they are headed in for I've just lost which turn they were in. There we go. They're just coming into the penultimate corner here and getting ready to finish. So let's take a look here at some of the passes and overtakes by Yuri Grigorenko. Again, starting in that 20th spot. You can see he is tumbling down the hill. This was the start of the race. And here we go. Look at him go down the inside. The carnage there early for, was that Zemstra or Lee Aberdeen, one of the Ice Cold Racing cars. Now he is gained up now 2 spots, looking for a third. There's his third one. And 4th and 5th, so he's made up 5 spots in just a matter of 3 corners. And right behind, I think that's Leonard Bognar, just right in front of him. It is on lap number 1. So he's been following Leonard Bognar since the opening lap. Now he's down the inside. Again, a replay from earlier, lap number 1. Now he's made up 6-7 spots. So we're counting him up here. So 7 overtakes in just the opening lap. And now he's trying to make another overtake. So, you know, due to some accidents and whatnot, he's been able to make up some of those spots. I would say about 4 of those spots were made up due to an accident, but he's also made on-track passes as he's trying to get around Muhammad here. And down the inside, there's number 9. So 8. That's number 8 for him. So 8 passes, overtakes, position changes for Yuri Grigorenko on the opening lap here at the ARA Super Formula Lights at the Hungaroring today. Back to the live action here, Ron. And what are you starting to see as Grigorenko, as we just mentioned earlier, he's going to make up 11 spots?
That was absolutely beautiful timing. It may not be over yet, as Bognar may try and sneak a wheel around the outside in the not too distant future. No, I think Grigorenko very easily clears him heading into turn number 2. But hey, even though he made up some positions with some incidents going around all throughout this field, he's still up 11 spots now. So there's no shame in how the result came. It's all about the sum. It's not about the equation to get there. It's all about the sum. He's up 11 spots right now. So very good stuff from him. Touching on some of the incidents that we saw during that first lap, I don't remember seeing that incident hang through turn number 2. I'm not sure who those 2 cars that were involved in that were. I saw cars off the track as Grigorenko cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter. The turn 1 incident, that was actually Thomas Hedlund that actually spun around in turn number 1. He's currently running an 18th, 1 lap down. And things have gone from bad to worse for Ice Cold Racing, as Lee Aberdeen, he's out of it. He's 4 laps down. There was an incident that happened with him not very long ago. I think we'll probably try and find a replay in the not too distant future to see what happened there, but never mind. This is some drama right outside the transfer spots between Gedvalis and Pletcher. That's for P2 and P3 in the AM category, and we're going to take a look at this replay to see what happened. You can see those 2 pretty far apart. Heading into second to last corner, Gedvalis sideways, possibly drifting his way around the corner, and he spins, and you can see, okay, nothing too much. Pletcher just was the one beneficiary from that. Gedvalis just went for a spin. That was still, you could see him just heading his way through the corner. He was sliding the whole time. So hey, Tokyo Drift could work occasionally, but I think with just a few laps to go until the checkered flag, it's probably not the best time at that point to try and do a celebratory drift. But they're going side by side now, heading into turn number 3. That's actually Gedvalis going side by side with a lapped car. My apologies. What lapped car is that? I believe that may be Hedlund that he's going side by side with. So Hedlund, even though he's 1 lap down, is not giving Gedvalis any sort of breaks race at all. There is Headland down 5 spots. The pro driver has had a torrid time of things so far this season, and this first race of this evening is certainly no exception. But meanwhile, for his teammate a little bit farther up the road, Tobias Olsen, he's going to be taking the white flag this time by Adam, and talk about dominant. This was the sort of drive that he needed. We're going to check throughout this broadcast to see if there's some sort of penalty his way, because as we said earlier, he was banned from participating in the qualifying session but still did it anyways. We'll try and see if there's some sort of penalty coming his way, but as he starts the final lap of the sprint race, 2.5, nearly 3 seconds in front of Mark Swan in P2. This has been an incredible result for the Swedish driver, and one he really needed after the time he had in Sebring 1 week ago.
Yeah, if you're Tobias Olsen, this has been a very comfortable race, and this is exactly what you want after a rough round last week in both races. He was taken out of both last week, so he is going to look and try and maybe do the double again. We are unsure of the penalty situation because he was supposed to serve a qualifying ban, which would have forced him to start in the back of the pack. And so he definitely would have not have won this one without the penalty. So Rasmussen, though, he is trying to maybe gain one more spot. Mark Swan defending well here on the white flag lap here as they go through the chicane one final time in this heat race, in this, I would say, sprint race. It's a 25-minute sprint race followed by a 30-minute feature. And right now, Tobias Olsen is going to win this by 3.1 seconds as Rasmussen goes way wide. I think the chances of him making a move now are slim to none as we just have a couple of corners to go. Tobias Olsen through the penultimate corner and into the final corner here. Tobias Olsen, penalty pending, will be headed to victory lane here in the sprint race, and he'll start in the 6th spot here at the ARA Super Formula Lights series here, and he'll start 6th come the feature. Mark Swan in 2nd, Nicholas Rasmussen 3rd, Leonard Scheibel in 4th. Kevin Zemstra comes home to 5th, a good result from him. George Snavsnuov, he'll start on the pole in the feature. Janik Pletcher 7th, Gedveles in 8th, Yuri Grigorenko in 9th, so he made up 11 spots. Leonard Bognar in 10th, and here comes a drag race to the line between Alex Pilbein and Akbulut, and Pilbein will cross the line 11th, Akbulut 12th, Palus in 13th. Mohammed will come home to that 14th spot, and in his debut here at the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Lights, Jeff Lutz about 5 seconds behind him. Grissetto and Walsh also going to be finishing hopefully where they are currently. Drivers not finishing this one: Thomas Hedlund, Celeste Craig Varuk, and Lee Aberdeen and Andre Duna. So that is the, well, we still got a couple more cars. Again, Grissetto, who was involved in an earlier incident and fell backwards. And let's take a look what happened here to Jay Walsh, who has just been trying this season. He's just trying to get comfortable with this car in the penultimate corner. Just way too fast and got up on the curbing.
I mean, it's a mistake that we saw just a few moments ago, so nothing too absurd for Jay Walsh. He's going to end up 2 positions from where he started, it must be said. And look at Grissetto there, ending up in P16. It's not a good result for him, on paper at least, because he would prefer to be running up towards the front. Had an incident earlier on that relegated him down the running order. But despite that, Grissetto, I think we said after he had that moment saying, hey, despite the fact he was running at, I think it was 18th or 19th or something like that, he could have very well ended his way up inside the top 15, and look, he ended up in P16. So nothing bad at all for Fabio Grissetto. And I think, do we have a warm-up session at our disposal this week? I believe we should. I believe we should have a warm-up. So this will be the calm before the storm, as it was last time out at Sebring. All hell broke loose during that race. We had Tobias Olsen, the championship leader, end up hitting the bridge going over the racetrack. So hopefully that Aramco bridge that you see right now on the start-finish straightaway here at the Hungaroring doesn't end with a Super Formula Lights car just lawn darted into the side of it. But considering how chaotic this season has been so far, Adam, I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Certainly won't hope that's the case, but hey, This series has been crazy so far. This season has been nuts, with so many twists and turns and storylines thrown throughout it. It wouldn't be shocking at all if we ended up seeing a driver have some sort of bizarre accident in this 30-minute race we have coming up.
Well, as they say in oval racing, time to open up the pay window, because this is the race that you need to put everything you have on the line, especially if you're ice cold racing. That team's championship getting tighter, the driver's championship getting even tighter after last week. So it's time to put the foot on the floor and get going here. Again, penalty pending on Tobias Olsen. We have to mention that because he was supposed to serve a qualifying ban. He did not serve it, so there will be additional consequences to that. I know that is a major no-no, which I'm not sure what the penalty could be, but I can imagine it could be a potential race ban because he did not complete that qualifying ban.
I'm not too sure about that. In my time covering Apex Run series, there's only one case in which a driver just got flat out banned, and that was for intentional wrecking, so I'm not sure that would happen to Tobias Olsen, but I'm sure there would be something coming his way. We may be able to report about what sort of penalties could be levied towards Tobias Olsen between now and the end of this broadcast. I'm not 100% sure on that, however, so don't take my word. Just take my word for whatever it values to you. Don't take it as the gospel, but still, Tobias Olsen, we could see a penalty. We'll definitely update you for the next round of this season coming up in only 1 week's time. It'll be the 6th round of this season. Really insane that we're going to be entering the final trifecta of races from this season so very early on. It doesn't feel like very long ago that the season began, all the way back at Misano 5 weeks ago. It's been a very up and down season, and I think this drama involving Tobias Olsen, I mean, it was going to be an interesting championship fight, considering the drama that happened at Sebring, but considering the drama that's happened here at the Hungaroring, with him setting a qualifying time and evading that qualifying ban, that could throw a huge wrench in the works when it comes to the championship fight. And if he does pick up a race ban, which you never know, it could still happen, that would be huge. That would be giant.
Again, I don't know the penalty rules for missing this penalty, but I also but I do know that in other leagues there are consequences. He will most likely face a DSQ in this one. So any result he has is going to be out the window. So even if he does win, he's not going to hold on to that race win for very long. Looks like cars are gritting up here. Let's take a look at our feature lineup.
Alrighty, here we go. George, sorry, Adam. George Chasnoff going to lead them to green. Kevin Zwemscher in P2. Leonard Schneibel in 3rd. Nicholas Rasmussen in P4. That's going to be Mark Swan in 5th. And Tobias Olsen in 6th. We really need to put a big exclamation mark next to his name between now and the end of this race. Yannick Pletcher going to be starting this race in 7th. Nojus Jedvil is starting this race in P8. Yuri Grigorenko, the hard charger from race 1 in P9. Leonard Bognar, the Swede, in 10th. Alex Pilbeam 11th. Dalil Akbalid in P number 12. And that's going to be Pierre-Francois Paulus in P number 13, Mohamed Boulanger, I probably butchered that pronunciation, in P14, Jeff Lutz in 15th, Fabio Grosseto in 16th, Jay Walsh in 17th, Thomas Headland in P18, Celeste Craig Verlogic in P number 19, Lee Aberdeen starting in 20th, and there we go, the lights are on, the drivers are already on their way, Adam.
Here we go, and now George Snasnoff trying to get up to a good start on that outside line as they fall into turn 1. Snazzoff trying to defend off Leonard Schneibel, Kevin Zemstra, everybody trying to figure each other out as they go through turn 1. Nobody spun around just yet, and I don't see any tire smoke, so we get through turn 1 cleanly here. Now, George Snazzoff holding off to the race lead with Leonard Schneibel, Nicholas Rasmussen right on his heels as they go down the hill into turn number 4. Contact and one off the track, and away he goes. Two
Walsh.
Contacts in the wall.
Yeah, Walsh was involved in that as well. I saw him spinning like a top in the back of the shot, but as he goes side by side here, heading through turn number 5, that was some heavy hitters taken out of this race so very early on. We may have to load up a replay as soon as we possibly can to see that drama heading side by side through turn number 3 at the very beginning of this race. These drivers, Muhammad taking the detour, heading through the chicane. He may have to serve some pretty major slowdown as Bognar going to try and get that move done, and contact again, this time heading into turn number 10. And that actually no, that's the little Akbala taking out of that pill beam, and the other HWT Motorsports car is still left out there on the racetrack, but you can see him towed back to pit lane. We are expecting some drama and some fireworks at the start of this feature race, considering the high tensions, and as you said earlier, Adam, the pay window is open for these drivers. They're going to be pushing the issue dramatically, as is Yuri Grigorenko. He nearly pushed Pletcher off the track coming around the final corner, and now they're coming around the final corner. That was heading out of the penultimate corner where they nearly had fisticuffs break out, but still side by side heading down the start-finish straightaway to complete lap 1, and Grigorenko and Pletcher still making contact. They're beating and banging and roughing each other up. I know we used some oval analogies earlier, but this beating and banging and roughing each other up like you usually see in a stock car race. Awesome stuff between these two, but I don't think they should do it for very long. Otherwise, they're just going to end up off in the racetrack in a cloud of carbon fiber bits and steam.
And
oh, there it is. I called that.
He is damaged. I also need to mention this. Tobias Olsen out of this race. He is out of this one. We'll need to get a replay to see exactly what happened to him. I think he was in that earlier scrum earlier, and I think his day is done. His day's all over and done. Grigorenko in the field starting the shuffle. Thomas Hedlund in the 15th spot. He's battling with Mark Swan, who is also involved in the earlier incident. We have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars in the pits. One car, one lap down, who is currently on track. Leonard Schneibel in second, who is only 2/10 away from George Snasnowab. Can I recap that any quicker?
I don't think you could, Adam, and honestly, considering how dramatic this race has been thus far, and it's going to be even more dramatic with Schneibel going for a balls-to-the-wall move and it's in tears. They're both in the wall. That's going to give the lead to Rasmussen Sazonov. He's done. That front left tire is done for. They've both towed back to the pits, and it's now going to be Nicholas Rasmussen taking the lead. That was a gutsy move from Leonard Schneibel, but I don't think it was ever going to work out. It was a last-minute move. There was no plan going for that. He just decided, nope, screw it, I'm gonna go down the inside with a dive bomb move heading into the second to last corner. And I swear, Adam, some of these drivers just make me, it feels like I'm getting a headache from some of these drivers. That was a ridiculous move that honestly I don't think was ever going to work at a track like that. A ridiculous looking collision between those two, and even more contact after that. Schneibel may pick up a penalty. That was quite unnecessary. The initial incident was quite unnecessary, but bumping him as both of them were stopped against the tire barrier with a destroyed race car, and all their hopes of winning this race completely shredded and shattered on the ground. Oh my God, Adam, some of these drivers, I mean, they're very fast race car drivers and they're very skilled, but sometimes they just give me a migraine headache with the moves they do on each other.
Tobias, let's take a look at a replay of Tobias Olsen. Oh, yep, that was that one. We're going to relook at that one as we got a tree in our way, but I don't even think that the car on the inside had anywhere to go here. That car on his inside, I think that's who is that? Yeah, just that was Mark Swan and Tobias Olsen. So Tobias Olsen. Wow, that I am flabbergasted at what we have just witnessed here in the first couple of laps here. And here's a replay of Jay Walsh in the same spot, and you can see the incident ahead with Tobias Olsen, and then he just got spun around by, who was that? Was that Lee Aberdeen? That was Lee Aberdeen who spun him around. So Ice Cold Racing, again, not having a good day here at ARA Super Formula Lights. So 2 weeks in a row, Tobias Olsen, Lee Aberdeen have been taken out of the feature and are not going to hardly score any points from this one. And I think, depending on how this race ends, we may see a change for the Drivers' Championship, as we see Schneibel, who is in that second spot of the championship. He's in 12th right now. He's continuing on after his massive contact into the wall earlier with George Snasnowab. So this is an absolute crap show right now, as in the championship. People behind the scenes are scrambling, going, what in the world is happening? The math is going to take a little bit of time to figure out. Again, we're going to look at Leonard Schneibel's move into the penultimate corner here. He shoots it down the inside. Not the move you're going to make there. And karma got him, I think, on that one. He didn't have a whole lot of karma, and some extracurricular activity as well. And I think the stewards are going to have an interesting time. And an unsafe rejoin. What is this guy doing? I'm sorry. That is just absolutely appalling. You cannot do that. You cannot unsafely join. You got to lock her down. You can't make aggressive moves like that. That was an absolute shamble of a move. I wouldn't be surprised if he may be serving a qualifying ban next week.
Oh man, that could be very much in the realm of possibilities, and the worst part is that was the other Alcantech car. I believe that may have been the Neymar Racing Alcantech car that was involved in that, the driver that had to check up the most with that unsafe rejoin from Schneibel. But him remaining on the racetrack may be a blessing in disguise. Well, it's not going to be a good result. It would be much better if they ended up with a 1-2, which at this point is completely out of the realm of possibilities, with 13 minutes left to go actually 23 minutes left to go, I should say, in this 30-minute long race. But that was just, oh man, I really don't know what to say about that. I feel like if I say what I really want to say, I may get in trouble here on Apex Racing TV. These drivers are giving it their all. That's what you can say about these drivers. They're pushing it to the absolute limit. Quite often, though, they push it a little bit over the limit, and we have moments like that. We're not even 10 minutes into this race, Adam. We already have Craig Verlogic, Jay Walsh, Headland, Aberdeen, and Olsen all out of this race. The bottom three all being ice-cold racing cars. This has just been a complete disaster, a disastrous 2 races for these drivers. And it must be said, the one thing that they have in common, it's all been in the month of August, and if they have some bad luck with the month of August, I have some very bad news for them as Swan runs into the back of, was that Grosseto or Grigorenko? I believe that was Grigorenko they made contact with. He's hit the wall again as well. Mark Swan trying to get a rejoined in this race. He ends up losing a spot to Leonard Schneibel, who's blinking in and out of existence constantly as Grigorenko has come into the pits. I think he's probably picked up some damage as a result of that contact with Swan, which is a real shame for Grigorenko because he was putting on a very good show, making up spots as we highlighted in that first race, and was also running in a very good position in this second race. However, as is so often the case in racing, things have gone to tears for the both of them, and here's a replay seeing what happened heading into turn number 12.
Oh, and Mark Swan, he just turned in right into Grigorenko. He did not, he was not ahead at the apex there. Grigorenko alongside of him. And Grigorenko, is he in the pits too? Or is he out? No. Okay, so Mark Swan currently out, is now pulling out of the pit lane here. And we're only 6 laps into this, and we have just seen total and utter carnage here. George Snazilov, our pole sitter, now in 16th. Rasmussen has now taken the lead with Kevin Zemstrup from Ice Cold Racing right behind him. You got Alex Pilbeam, I think, who's just been the luckiest dog out of all of this, in third. What has happened here in the first 6 laps? I think we're going to have to clip a lot of this race to just kind of get it pieced back together of what has happened here. Also, another driver I want to mention, Janik Pletcher, up into the 5th spot due to all the carnage, and he is looking at a good top 5 finish here. Mohammed in the 7th spot. He is 10 seconds behind the leader, but in his debut race, he's in the top 10 here in the feature.
This has been a very impressive drive, it must be said. The driver from, I believe that is the flag of Northern Cyprus, if I'm very much mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I'm trying to dust up my flag knowledge here.
If you know that, I'm going to be, wow.
Okay, I'm going to fact check myself here. I am a plethora of useless knowledge, but either way, he's put on a very good show. Actually, no, it is not the Northern Cyprus flag. I may get some stuff from that, but anyways, I will try and figure out what the flag is a little bit later on in this broadcast, but still running a P7, that's a very good show, and considering the drama that we've seen so far in this race and the drama that we saw around this point involving the drivers running inside the top 7 during that sprint race, I mean, hey, the pay window's open. These drivers, as we just saw in the opening stages of this, they're going to be pushing it a whole lot more. So despite the fact that Mohamed Bolonej is down there in 7th, we could very well see him end up in the top 5 between now and the end of this race. I would not rule that out under any circumstances.
You know, for him, he just has to be comfortable. It's your first race here at the ARA Super Formula Lights. You don't know exactly what to expect when you join a new league. And for him, he's got to have a good smile on his face. He does have a couple of cars behind him, but he's probably not too worried right now of what's happening behind him. He's just worried about just keeping the car straight and hitting his marks. Nicholas Rasmussen, our new race leader here, up 3 spots here.
Our producer Josh butting in here, and I had looked it up only a few moments ago. Josh informing the both of us that is the flag of Tunisia, a country in northern Africa. So racing in Tunisia, and it's really nice to see here in the Apex Racing Academy Super Formula Light Series. A complete subject change here. The diversity in terms of the drivers running here. I mean, we've got a driver from Denmark leading this race, a driver from the Netherlands in P2, a driver from the UK in 3rd. I believe Gedvalis is from Lithuania. I believe that is a flag of Lithuania. I may be mistaken on that. Then we've got Pletcher from Switzerland, Bognar from Sweden. You've got Burlej, I probably have killed that pronoun. Yeah, Mohammed. He's from Tunisia. Then we've got Duna from Romania, Grassetto from Italy, Schneibel from Germany, and Grigorenko from Russia. So we've got the entirety of the top 11 made up of people representing various different countries. Hey, worldwide sim racing. That's a great thing about sim racing. You don't have to be from the same region of the world or the same region from the country to try and be in the same race. These drivers just going to battle as hard as they can. And we're seeing that right now. Grassetto with a nice drift coming out of turn number 12. He may be trying to battle here with Duna and Mohammed in the not too distant future here, Adam.
It could get very interesting here. A 3-car battle for this 7th spot here. Grassetto in the 9th spot, making up this train here. But here comes Duna. Duna getting a good slipstream down the front straight. Shoots it down around the outside as they go into turn 1. Almost side by side. Duna has to fall back behind and give up on the move just for now as they fall down into turn 3. That last turn, that was turn 2. And here's turn 3. Here comes Duna. Duna getting real close now, sniffing the back bumper of Mohammed as they go down the hill. Now back up the hill through the fastest left corner of the track here. And again, very close racing here as we are approaching lap 10 here. 13 and a half minutes gone out of this 30-minute race. Ooh, a little bit of a wiggle there by Duna, trying to find a way through down the inside into the chicane. Duna goes and
look at Grassetto
able to get the spot. Grassetto gets the job done as well. So Mohammed losing 2 spots in the matter of just 1 corner. So, but Mohammed, welcome. We welcome you here to the ARA Super Formula Lights series. And you're doing quite well out there, and enjoy yourself while you're at it. Schneibel, currently 10th on the board as well. Kevin Zemstra falling into the clutches now of Alex Pilbein as we go down the front straight. The slipstream very, very strong here at Hungaroring, especially on this long front straightaway. Good slipstream. Here he comes, Alex Pilbein. He's going to shoot it down the inside. Turn 1. He makes the move stick, and there he goes into second. 1.7 seconds away from Rasmussen. But Zemstra, I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. You can see he wants to get right underneath his back bumper, but it's not going to happen. Turn 3, again, have to get slowed down, and Pilbein actually had a little bit more pace through turn 3. As you saw there, was able to grow the gap just slightly, nothing too bad. And through turn number 5 we go. And Pilbein still maintaining that 2nd spot. Gedvalis right behind this group here. He's potentially being chased by somebody. I think that's Pletcher right behind him as we were keeping our eyes on this battle for 2nd.
I think this may be a fight developing for, I mean, obviously the fight between Pilbein and Zwemstra that we just saw. A nice move from Pilbein. That is how you get it done. Don't go for a dive bomb on lap 2, but that fight's a little bit farther in the back between Gedvalis and Pletcher. I think that's going to heat up as well, and Bognar may get in the midst of it as well. And as we did with Grigorenko during that first race, we're going to ride on board with Alex Pilbein and see his perspective with all the drama going on. You can see the cars going off the track a little bit farther up the road. Tobias also one of those cars involved in than that. Then you can see his HWT Motorsports teammate of Dalil Akbalid right in front of him. We're going to see Akbalid go around in just a few moments' time. He's riding on board with Pillbeam. This is going to be a heartbreaker for him, seeing his team car get taken out of this race. A little bit of contact, actually, heading into the chicane. That's what sent Muhammad off there, so it wasn't a conscious decision from him. He just had to go off the track because of a bump and run that was pulled on him heading into the chicane, and a little bit, just a few moments after that was when the incident involving Dalil Akbalid happened. I think we'll take a look at that incident possibly following Pillbeam heading into turn number 12 right now. I think this may have been, okay, this was Pillbeam's perspective of that drama that happened. You can see he goes for a dive, very aggressive, it must be said. I'm gonna hold these drivers true and true. You got a move done, and you can see those two cars off the track. There's a comment saying that it was an aggressive move, and I want to make this quite clear. It was an aggressive move from Pillbeam as well. The main thing is that, I mean, it worked. Those two cars didn't end up in the barrier. I don't really have any ill will feelings towards any of these drivers. I've driven long enough myself to know that the red mist can happen, especially in these races as we've hit the second half of this season. But going for an aggressive move like that on lap 2, even if it is successful, you're expecting some drama to happen after that. You should go into that knowing fully well that it can go wrong, and sadly for the cars a little bit farther up the road, it did go wrong. It ruined the races of Sazonov and Schneibel. Schneibel's still running in the top 10 as he still blinks in and out of existence. I briefly point out that he was out of it, but of course in just blinking at small little connection issue. Maybe it was part of the reason why he went for that dive, just didn't see the car and decided just to go for the move out of the blue. It did look like a very thought out decision, it must be said, from Schneibel, but he's put on a good recovery drive, and as we're following his teammate with Alcantech NHR by Nyman Racing, Fabio Grassetto, the AM driver, currently running 8th overall. This is actually going to be really good for Alcantech NHR Racing, having Schneibel remain in, and even if he's just going to finish inside the top 10, you're going to have the other team car of Rasmussen possibly win here, depending on if he can hold off Pillbeam. That gap has actually come down a teeny tiny bit as we get into the second half of this race. Anything can happen, but with the drama that befolded Ice Cold Racing so far this round at Hungaroring, this could be the swing in terms of that team championship. We could see Alcantech actually take the lead in that team championship coming out of this round.
Yeah, if you're Rasmussen, you got to just stay with it now, because you know this is going to be for the betterment of the team championship. If you're Schneibel right now, you're just making up positions. As of right now, if I'm thinking of the math and trying to just do quick math in my head here, the championship lead is going to change after this one in the Drivers' Championship. If Schneibel finishes where he's at, he should be able to pick up enough points to either take the lead or just be right there to make it a very interesting last 3 rounds of the season. Alex Pillbeam, he's kind of the lone driver of the HWT team right now in the top 3. Let's take a look at Janik Fletcher here. Oof. Oh, he slid around. Wow. Oh, he almost had it. If he would have saved that move, that would have been save of the year right there. Here he goes down the inside of turn 5 and just could not keep it together. Could not hold on to it. Luckily did not crash the car. No damage it looked like, so he can continue on at least and not lose as many positions as it originally looked could have happened there.
He was so
Janik
close,
Fletcher,
but so far away from saving it.
It was right there. It was right there. I think these cars, they have just a little bit of bite on its steering a little bit, and if you just make one little wiggle, it's hard to really recollect it just because of how stiff these cars really are. Bognar, 5th right now. He's up 5 spots, started 10th. Only 7 seconds away from Gedveles, but he's being chased down by Janik Fletcher, who he was battling with earlier. So, Ron, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to put it to you this way. If you're Rasmussen right now, what's the game plan? Just bust out a gap as quickly as you can, get out 7 seconds, or try and get your teammate involved in this battle? I know it's a 30-second gap, but you need your teammate up there for the team's championship.
Man, this is really tough. That's a very good question you asked me, Adam. And honestly, it all depends on what the voices, the angels and the devils on his shoulder are really saying. If you're Rasmussen, there's 2 things you could do at this point. You could either push to the end and try and fight for the win, and if there are some fisticuffs that break out between yourself and Alex Pilbeam, it would be a disaster for Alcantech NHR in terms of that team's championship. Of course, depending on how things shake out with Tobias Olsen, if he gets disqualified from this round, which we haven't gotten confirmation of just yet. Hopefully we can get some sort of confirmation about what penalties may be heading Olsen's way between now and the end of this broadcast. But no, I think if you're Nicholas Rasmussen, you can either play the team role and try and hold off on a front-running position and bring in a big bag of points for the team, because really at this point, Nicholas Rasmussen, 4 rounds already on the board, 4 more to go, actually 3 more to go, not including this one. You're at the point now where I don't think Rasmussen would be able to make it up in the championship, even if he won every single race between now and the end of it. So Rasmussen really possibly playing the team role, or maybe going for all-out honor and trying to snag that win. It's a tough deal for Rasmussen. What does he do towards the end of this race? Is he going to try and be aggressive? Is he going to try and play the team role? Of course, playing the team role, it's not about letting a teammate by. He doesn't have to worry about that. He's got a competitor right behind, the HWT Motorsports car of Alex Pilbeam. But I think there may be a team role going on as Dalil Akbalit enters the pits right in front of our leader, Nicholas Rasmussen. And I'm curious how the gap is right now after, we'll say, even if it was just a few corners of being stuck behind the HWT Motorsports car. He hasn't even come down pit lane, has Dalil Akbalit. I think he just slowed them up a teeny tiny bit. It didn't really work, though, as they're currently separated by 1.5 seconds at the north end of this field, coming to about 7.5 minutes left to go in this 30-minute long race. I don't really think that worked out too well for HWT Motorsports, but some team gains and some mind games playing a role in how things shake out in this race.
Fletcher now into the pit lanes he goes. He was right there in the battle for 5th, and now he's fallen back down to 10th. As he is into the pits. I'm not sure what had happened there, but he had fallen back just a little bit ago as I was watching on the track map. But we almost had a 4-car battle for this 5th spot here in this feature race. Lap 15, 7 minutes to go here. So we only got about, I would say, what, 3 laps to go? 4 laps to go? If that, as Duna now in the 6th spot, trying now to get to the back bumper of Leonard Bognar. But you can see these two, Grosseto and Duna, battling it out here for a top 6 spot here at the ARA Super Formula Lights. And of course, a championship is still alive here. So we got to just keep our eyes forward here. Again, Grosseto, he's 2/10 right behind. He's swinging around the outside, and here he comes in around the corner. And he get a moved on. No, he cannot. He's still side by side with Duna, and Duna now loses the spot to Grosseto in the penultimate corner.
These drivers, they're seeing... Oh yeah, they're seeing the end of this race near, and I think they're starting to get a bit more aggressive. This is really the closest fight out there on the racetrack, but I have a good feeling it is going to be a fun one to watch. Grosseto, very good recovery drive, it must be said, after the drama that happened earlier on in this race meeting, trying to hold off Duna right behind. They're side-by-side heading into turn number 1. He clears them heading into the braking zone, so Grosseto for now still holding on to that P6 spot. That'll be P6 overall and P3 in the AM category, as Duna looking to go around the outside heading into turn number 2, but he's not going to be alongside heading into 3. At this point, Duna needs to try and focus on getting a good exit onto this flat out blast between 3 and 4, maybe trying to sneak it down the inside or the outside heading through 4, but not close enough as they now head through turn number 5. But Grosseto and Duna putting on a very good show towards the end of this race, and that gap between Rasmussen and Pilbeam has actually decreased a teeny tiny bit. Duna trying to get a move done into the chicane and getting forced off the track. Close quarter stuff between those two. They are incredibly lucky that they got away with that incident without both of those cars ending up in the tire barriers. But at this point in this race, the tension is starting to heat up, Adam. 5 minutes left to go on the clock, actually less than 5 minutes left at this point. We'll call it 3 laps left for these drivers. And how many overtaking opportunities are there around this lap? Let's just say 2. So 2 overtaking opportunities, 3 laps left to go. That's 6 chances for Pilbeam to maybe get a move done on Rasmussen. If he can close up that gap, it's still about a second separating the two of them, but that gap has gone down consistently. It hasn't been just taking chunks out of it every now and then. He's just been slowly filing away at it, and now it looks like Pilbeam, towards the end of this race, It's all a matter of how much fuel do these drivers have left in the tank. I'm not talking about the actual fuel. I'm just talking about what they have left in their race cars. Do they have enough grip? Are they comfortable with the way their car is driving? Are they comfortable with the way they're driving? There's a whole lot that's going to play a role in this fight, but I think as the field starts to close up towards the end of this race, Grosseto and Duna still covered by less than a second. Schneibel and Muhammad now covered by less than a second, and also that gap between Rasmussen and Pilbeam now to about 8/10. I think we're coming to a fantastic crescendo here, Adam. What do you think?
I think so as well. I want to go back to your comment about overtaking opportunities. If your name is Yuri Grigorenko, any spot is an overtaking opportunity. We saw him last race making up 11 spots. He hasn't quite done that in this race, but Duna up 14 spots here. So our hard charger so far of the day, Andre Duna, 14 spots. That's amazing to see them move themselves up the grid like that, but we're keeping our eyes out front. Ravnison pulling up the gap just a little bit at a time here. Still 1 second between him and Alex Pilbeam. Here we go, lap 19 on starting right now, and away we go. Excuse me, we're still on lap 18. I thought we were on lap 19. My apologies, but 3 minutes to go. So the next lap should be the white flag when we come back around. Kevin Zemscher, he's 3.2 seconds back in this battle here. He's the only Ice Cold Racing driver in the main team that is still out there running in this one. But 3 of the Ice Cold Racing drivers, two of the top team currently out of this one. Lee Aberdeen, Tobias Olsen, Thomas Hedlund as well is out in this one. Here we go, side by side. Leonard Schneibel trying to gain another spot here against Mohammed around the inside, and turn 1 gets the move done. And for Schneibel, all these positions right now, you just got to be thinking any spot I gain now. But here comes Mohammed. He's bringing it back around the outside in turn 3, and he almost loses it, and into the barrier he almost went, but he saves it and is able to continue on. But Leonard Schneibel now, he is just gaining spot after spot, and right now this is for the lead of the championship for him. So any spot he can get, he's going to try and claim that for himself to try and take the lead of the championship this week. Let's take a look at the replay again here between Schneibel and Mohammed, as again going down to turn 1. Good slipstream off the back of the car of Mohammed. Schneibel goes down the inside and forces Mohammed over pretty much. Through turn 1 they go. Mohammed trying to keep his foot on the floor as they go through turn number 2. He's right on the back bumper, almost sniffing it, it seems like. And then the turn 3, still side by side, but that move is not going to ever work, and just loses the rear end, but saves it before an ultimate disaster for his debut race.
Honestly, Adam, I feel like a lot of the drivers in this series weren't really trusted with lighters as a kid, because boy oh boy do they like to play with fire, and we've seen that a lot so far this race. They have been going for some pretty aggressive moves. I think a lot of these drivers are going to be very happy to see that white flag, which is now in the air. Rasmussen, he's going to be happy to see the checkered, because this fight between himself and Pilbeam, it is heating up. I think if this was like a 45-minute long race, this would probably be Pilbeam's to lose. He's closed out that gap a whole lot. Even in this last lap, now it's about a half a second, teetering around that half a second, 6/10 of a second barrier between these two. But Rasmussen, he needs to put together a stellar final few corners of this race, because if he has some small little trip up, Pilbeam is gonna be there to pick up the pieces.
Rasmussen now having to defend hard in the last couple of corners. Through the chicane they went through, and now they're going to try and finish this one up here as they're coming through the penultimate corner. Nicholas Rasmussen, he's putting everything he has into this race win through the final corner here at ARA Super Formula Lights here at the Hungaroring. Nicholas Rasmussen will take the win. Alex Pilbeam will come home to second after a hard-fought race there. Kevin Zemscher, the only Ice Cold Racing driver to get onto the podium and finish this one. Najus Gedveles in 4th. Leonard Bognar, he's coming out of the final corner now. He'll be happy with this one. 5th place for Leonard Bognar, the driver out of Sweden. The Italian Fabio Grosseto in 6th. Duna in 7th. Schneibel now gonna come home to the 8th place spot, and like I mentioned earlier, that could be the championship lead that he is wanting here at ARA. Super Formula Lights. Mohammed will come home to 9th, a top 10 finish in his debut race. Grigorenko, not a fantastic feature race. He actually lost one spot, but he will finish the top 10. Janik Pletcher in 11th, Mark Swan in 12th, Palouse in 13th, and Akblut, Lutz, and Snoutsnoov are last remaining drivers on the track. Not finishing this one, George Snoutsnoov, Craig Vorlogic, Jay Walsh, Thomas Hedlund, Lee Aberdeen, and Tobias Olsen as we watch Mohammed burn it down here at Hungaroring. You know, he didn't win the race. He gets, I say, let him have some fun out there. He definitely had a great drive here this afternoon. And if we had a Driver of the Day award, I think I would have given it to him just for his good debut race. So, well, Ron, that first race was great. I thought that first race was fantastic. It wasn't until the feature race, that 30-minute race, that thing kind of just went off the railings.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, these drivers have always been aggressive, and even dating back to my time earlier on this year covering the Apex Racing Academy F4 Championship, drivers would go for some outrageous moves at times. They're racers. They're going to try and fight and claw and scrape for every position they possibly can. But there's definitely some aggressive moves pulled in this race, that is for darn sure. But I think from our perspective in the commentary booth, we're not very upset with the moves. I mean, maybe a little bit like, oh, come on, guys, what are you doing? But, you know, we're not entirely emotionally invested if two drivers come to blows. Of course, we have to cover this race. But it's still like looking at some of the moves these drivers do. Like, if I was one of these drivers, I feel like I would want to yell at just about half the grid, considering some of the stuff that's happened at the start of these races. But hey, as I said earlier, they're racers. They're going to be pushing it to the absolute limits, and many of them did today. I think we'll take a look at the results from this final race of the evening. Then I think we'll move on to some interviews. Adam will pull them up, and you can see very close call actually with Grigorenko in turn number 1 of this race. I was getting very tense seeing that very early on, but we'll get the results. There they are. Nicholas Rasmussen, the driver of the Alcantech NHR by Brain Crow AI number 171. He is going to be taking the checkered flag in that A final race, the second of 2 races that we have here this afternoon. That's going to be Alex Pilbeam in P2. Kevin Zwemstra in a very good recovery drive. He's going to end up in 3rd. Nojus Jedvalis is going to take the checkered flag, the top of the AMs. He's going to finish this race in P4. That's Leonard Bognar in 5th. Fabio Grassetto, another good recovery drive. He ends up in P6. Andrea Duna is going to end up in P number 7. Leonard Schneibel in 8th, another good recovery drive from him. Muhammad in a series debut, very good showing from him. That's going to be Yuri Grigorenko rounding out your top 10.
Out of the top 10, Janik Pletcher, Mark Swan, Pierre Francois Palouse, Dalil Akbalut in 14th. 15th, Jeff Luce. Sasawaf, our pole sitter, finishes in 16th. Salas Craig Borlik, in 17th, and Thomas Hedlund in 18th. Other drivers as well finishing outside of that, of course, was Tobias Olsen. And do we have that next page by chance on our results? Maybe not, but yeah, there it is. There's the rest of them. Lee Aberdeen, Jay Walsh, and Tobias Olsen not finishing this race. So, well, that is the final tally there. Again, the math is the people behind the scenes doing the quick calculations, trying to figure out where the driver standings and the team standings are at, and we'll have an update here next week. Well, Ron, let's talk to some of our drivers here, and let's talk to our, first off, we probably should talk to our race winner of Nicholas Rasmussen, who he's had a great, fantastic couple of weeks. I'll drag him in here. Nicholas, can you hear us here?
Loud and clear, guys.
Loud and clear. Congratulations on another win here at ARA Super Formula Lights. Obviously, this race win, maybe a little bit of a surprise, I would say, for you, but talk about your feature race there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise. I think we lacked the ultimate pace. It was quite consistent. But yeah, that feature race pretty much was in P3, unfortunately, when the two up in front collided, unfortunately, including my teammate, which pretty much left me clear space to push. I was struggling a bit with the front tire, so I was trying to manage it the whole race, and near the end there, Alex was getting way too close for comfort. So yeah, got it at the end, and very, very happy with it.
Well, talk about now as we are halfway through the season last week and starting the second half this week. The team and drivers championship is getting very, very intense now. Talk about being kind of the kind of a runner for your team, as well as your teammate who's now who could be sitting in the championship lead after today.
It's amazing. It's good fun. You know, it's the competition here is very, very strong, as is pretty clear when you see the qualifying times out there as well. Super close. So it's nice being able to challenge for it. It feels good, obviously, and we are just going to give it everything we got, and then we'll see where we are at the end.
Currently, right now, you are sitting fourth in the championship. Are you going to be helping your teammate at all, trying to win a driver's championship, or you're going to try and take it for yourself?
I mean, if he's ahead of me come the end of the championship, obviously I'll help him. Currently, I think I've had a rough start to the season. What I really wanted this season after that start was just to get a win and get that monkey off the back. That happened today, so in that sense, I'm happy with it. And if it comes to it, I will help my teammate, of course.
And then, of course, next week, are you ready? Are you planning on being here next week with us?
Yeah, of course I am.
All right. Well, congratulations on a good feature win, and we'll see you next week here at ARA Super Formula Lights.
Yeah, see you next week. Take care, guys.
Nicholas Rasmussen, our feature winner here this afternoon. Who else should we talk to? We got a few drivers in there. I would like to talk to Alex Pilbeam because I think he will be the less dramatic interview we'll have this afternoon. And let's bring him in. And Ron, go ahead and take it away.
Alrighty, Alex Pilbeam, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. Really a tale of two halves from this race, it must be said. A dramatic way that your race number 1 went, but a pretty good showing in race number 2. Talk us through it here at the Hungaroring.
The first round or first race wasn't great, but I think I did all I could as in getting back wise, and then it helped that Dillil let me through to P11 at the end as well. Got me a little bit closer to the front. And then the second race is just like everyone fell off the road in front of me. I went from P11 to 3 in the first lap and a half, 2 laps. And I think I overtook 2 people. So thank you to everyone for crashing, I guess.
I mean, you got to end up in P2 somehow, so hey, I'm sure you'll take at P2 a very good result from you. And we're now coming into the second half of the season. The next race is going to be at Mugello in 1 week's time, even though it is also a former Grand Prix track, having hosted the F1, trying to think of the name of the race that was held there back in 2020. But still, a very different track than the one here at Hungaroring. How do you think that race is going to be in 1 week's time?
I think tracks like that suit me a little bit more than Hungary typically does, so I think I should have some pace, hopefully. Just need to practice, and then we'll give it a shot. I need to figure out with work, maybe the last couple rounds of the championship, I'm going to do a bit of maths, see if it's worth me turning up for the last couple, see if I have a championship fight or not. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a very fun race meeting at Mugello in 1 week's time. I'm sure it's going to be quite hectic as well, considering how much of a slipstream fest that race will be. But Alex Pilbeam, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Thank you to Dillil, especially this round. Helped a lot by not fighting me, letting us go. Just played the team game a bit. And Zemstra helped in the race by not holding me up at all as I came past him for P2. Gave me a shot at the lead, but I couldn't quite get there. Yeah, I'm excited for the last couple of rounds. I'm sure you lot realise Olsen's predicament that he now has for the next couple of rounds. So I might have a championship to fight for. So we'll go for it.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
certainly see what kind of hammer falls down on Tobias Olsen between now and the next race meeting at Mugello. And of course, we will update the viewers at the beginning of that Mugello race in 1 week's time. But Alex, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Congratulations on the P2 and excited to see you next time out at Mugello. Thanks for joining us, man.
Take care. Thank you.
Alex Spillbean, second place runner here this afternoon. And I think another driver we're going to talk to just briefly, we're going to talk to hopefully two more. We got Janik Pletcher in the waiting room, and his race was a tale of two stories, I think, throughout the afternoon. Hello, Janik.
Hello.
And hello. You had kind of one of those more interesting days. You stayed in the race. That's a plus. Just talk about both your races here this afternoon.
Yes, I think the first race was pretty good. Nothing I could have done really better with my pace that I had. But race 2 it started pretty well, I must say. I got behind Get Villas, if I say correctly. And then I was a little bit faster than him. And always on the last corner, he got a better exit, so I couldn't get a move on turn 1. Afterwards, I thought about, because he was really slow after turn 2, and there you can really get the slipstream in, and I thought I would go for the move there. What was a bit too much. It was way too much, I must say, and yes. And then I had too many incidents eventually, and yes, my race was pretty over. Yes. Not so good. Yeah.
Well, again, you had the ups and downs today, but you stayed on track. Just talk about the race as a whole in that feature. You know, you had to avoid some pretty big accidents. Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. There were quite big incidents in the whole race. I think Tobias Olsen also was involved in one of them. Mark Swan. All the top drivers were really out of the race eventually because so many crashes happened. And yeah, that was quite a big chance also for me to get a good place in the whole race, in the whole future race.
Well, you're leading the championship right now in the AM category. Talk about leading the championship currently. Before this race, you came into it with 11-point lead, but this is going to bump you up a few, I would say a few points.
Yes, I think also. But yes, I mean, if I'm in the championship lead, I shouldn't go for that move there because it's all about consistency. Especially in this league, I've experienced you just need to be really consistent. I mean, I've never had a win in the aim category. So yes, for me it's all being consistent and trying to get me up there also with the pace, because right now there's much more in it to improve, definitely.
Anybody you would like to thank for your race this afternoon?
Yeah, I want to thank to you guys for making this amazing broadcast, and also Apex Racing League for this league and the other leagues, and to my sponsor Xtegrasol, to my family who's always watching me and supporting me, and yes, thank you guys.
Well, thank you for joining us, Janik, and you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Janik Pletcher, our championship leader in the AM category, finishing 11th, 7th in class. Do we have time for one more interview here, Josh? All right, we're going to bring in Leonard Schneibel, and I think we're going to have a very interesting interview here, Ron. So I'll let you take it away.
Alrighty, Leonard, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. I'm not really sure how to start this interview off. I should probably apologize for some of the stuff that we said about a move that you pulled off earlier on in that second race. Just talk us through a very dramatic race meeting from your perspective here at the Hungaroring.
Well, qualifying was a bit meh. Qualified P7, that was a bit suboptimal. but I got myself into a decent position right after the start. I think I was P5 after the start, and got a couple more places in the next couple laps. And so far, so good. Finished in a decent position, and I mean P4 is fair, considering that we're still in a championship fight. And race 2 was a bit lonely, except for the first 2 laps. So I basically had a great start, took Kevin's place right away, and tried to send it somewhere, and because I knew I was faster than George, but he just either didn't see me or didn't want to leave me any space. I'm not saying anything against him right here, but I felt a bit squeezed on the inside, and yeah, and then our tires touched and I just flew off into the barriers. I got a great recovery though, P8. It's decent considering where we were after lap 2.
Considering that drama and the fact you ended up in the barrier, and very briefly, at least from our perspective here on the broadcast, it looked like one of your wheels popped off and then popped back into existence. So I think you should be very thankful of the result that you ended up getting in this race. Now, this probably wasn't the best race meeting for you, so I'm sure you're looking forward to Mugello next time out in 1 week's time. How do you think that race is going to be for you?
I have not that much experience with open wheelers at Mugello. I drove it in the Ferrari GT3 in the rain a bit, but not much. So I know the track from MotoGP back in the day, but that's all I have to offer, and I need to get some practice in for the next round, because it's going to be a lot more difficult to be up ahead of the competitors due to the difficulty of the track, which is actually not that hard. But if you want to be really fast, you need to nail every single chicane, and that's what matters at the end of that track, and try to get out of the draft. Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I think based off that description, it's going to be a very fun race in 1 week's time, full of a whole lot of challenge. Leonard Schneibel, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Huge shout out to Nick. Great win, well deserved, and also a huge shout out to Fabio, who had a great recovery in the second race, starting from P16 going up to P6. Had some great moves in the chicane and everywhere else on the track, and basically, yeah, to the whole team, thank you for having me as a teammate, and also to you guys, thank you for the stream. I'm gonna rewatch it later on, probably.
Alrighty, well, Leonard, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Thank you for the kind words, and hopefully some of the stuff we said earlier on after that move on George Sasnoff, I believe it was, hopefully that doesn't annoy you too much. But anyways, Leonard, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the P8 result, coming back from adversity in that second race, and excited to see you back out on track in Mugello in 1 week's time. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
That was a interview completed without it being terribly awkward. Adam, I think I'll pass it off to you to wrap things up.
Well, thank you very much, Ron. And of course, what a race we had here. Nicholas Rasmussen takes the feature win here today here at the Hungaroring. Next week, we head to Mugello, which I think we're probably in for a lot of the same. Of course, a much faster track than the Hungaroring here this afternoon. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, give us the thumbs up. That always helps us out here at Apex Racing TV, and we appreciate all of those who have already subscribed and who have joined us here today. If you want to catch up on all the action, just head to the YouTube page and head to videos and just watch all the previous live streams live from the past weeks. Well, Ron, I'm going to go ahead and say good night from Apex Racing TV, and we'll see you next Thursday afternoon at Mugello. Good night, everybody.